Okay.
When we played ball, we'd just play in vacant lots. And we'd have people from 3 years old, 4 years old, to 50 years old. And they had one rule that I didn't
Sounds
like.
like Easter, doesn't it?
These were people, they were playing.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the one rule I didn't like was that when I was a little fella, they had a rule that people my age, they had an adult, a bigger person, they had to take a last strike for them. If you got 2 strikes on you, somebody took your place at the bat and took your last strike, or hit the ball and you ran, the kid ran. Nobody ever complained about hitting balls into the yard.
Where was the field?
Well, different places. That house that was right beside us, we used to play a lot of ball in that yard. We'd also play up in a vacant lot right next to Bob Dylan's. Bob Dylan was, he came from Walter Mahone family. He was our cousin. He was a barber, cut our hair. We played horseshoes. In horseshoes we played a lot with black people. Some of the people that I admired and loved were black people. One black man, his name was Alfonso Lincoln, and black people called him Red. Frank and I, after we got a little bit bigger, we started going out and setting snares and so forth for rabbits, and so did he. So from that time on, if he got to the snares first, he always got a lot of rabbits. And if we got there first, we got a lot of rabbits. So we tended to his, and we'd meet him, sometime we'd be coming back from the traps, and we'd meet him on the bridge right there at the house over the river. And we'd be coming back with rabbit, and he said, well, did y'all reset my traps, my staff, yeah. So Frank and I called him Thief, and he called us Big Thief and Little Thief.
Did your father play baseball?
No. My father didn't play baseball and never went to see any of his children play.
Lack of interest or lack of time?
Both. He had a store to keep. He thought we were wasting our time.
So I assume your mother thought the same thing, since you pretty much did whatever he expected her to.
Yeah, the adults didn't pay much attention to kids playing school ball and so forth. Now, there was a little humpback fella named Odie Carter who liked baseball a lot. he'd even come with his car and him transport us to the ball games. But the only schools we played were the 4 high schools in Nelson County, and then sometime Amherst County High School, and Appomattox once or twice. And we'd also play against the CCCs, the government program, you know, where they had been building Shenandoah Lake and all that, Skyline
Civilian
Drive.
Conservation Corps.
There were a lot of them around.
And they would have been older.
Well,
I don't know, high school age.
huh?
There were a lot of high school age in the
Or
CCC.
18, weren't they?
Yeah, there was some.
Yeah.
And some
Oh,
boys,
right out of high
the
school.
boys that, some of the boys that I ran around with in Massies Mill that dropped out of school joined the CCCs. And by the way, the CCCs made more money than a private in the Army. They made $30 a month. Private made $21 a month. But the CCCs split the money 3 ways. I forget how it was split and what percentages, but one part of it would go home to the parents. One part of it would go into savings that they'd get when they got out, and the other part would go to them.
What were some of the other businesses that were in Massie's Mill as you were growing up?
Cider mills, blacksmith shops, lumber companies,
Had a barrel factory, didn't you? You made barrels.
barrel making. The Virginia Blue Ridge Railroad came into Massie's Mill. Both John and Phil worked on that for some time. I worked on it when I was in college.
Barber shops.
A barber shop, a black barber shop, and a white barber shop. White barber shop was run by our cousin, and the black barber shop was run by Uncle Riley. And we had a lot of uncles and aunts that were black.
You had a pool hall.
Well, that was at the black barber shop. But it was all, not only was it a barber shop, but it was a shoe repair shop. And when we were real little, Uncle Riley, the black man, cut a hair. And when we got older, Bob Diller did. And then when the war started, a friend of mine lived across the road from me. His daddy cut hair, but he had a little shop right close to us. And Robert came home from the University of Virginia. Frank and I had a haircut, and he said, "Why did you get your hair cut?" And he said, "Mr. Coffee did it." He said, "You reckon he cut my hair?" I said, "Yeah, he's running the shop down there. Go on down there." And he came back and his hair was butchered. He's mad as hell for Frank and me. And we told him, said, "Was he sober?" He said, "What do you mean?" "Well, when he gets drunk, you don't let him cut your hair."
So your mother never cut your hair?
No, now my hair, I loved the Presbyterian preacher. I just loved him.
A.T. Francis.
And I think, hey man,
How are you
how
doing?
How are you?
Hey, Mom.
What a nice surprise. How you doing?
Good. How you doing?
How did you know
Pop?
interview was going on?
Oh, I know things. Hey, Andy.
He had to approve it.
How you doing, bud?
You had to approve it.
No,
I love this preacher. And he,
Turn that back on.
I didn't turn it off.
Okay.
It's easy enough to go in and edit it.
Okay.
and he didn't have any hair on his head. And so when spring would come, I would want my head to be like his. And so Phil would cut my hair with clippers and just cut it down as much as he could get off with the clippers. And I'd go in the house and look in the mirror and come back out, and I said, mm-mm. I said, you didn't get enough. It's not shining like Mr. Francis. But Mr. Francis and my father were real close until I got expelled from Bible school. And Mr. Francis came down and talked to my father, and I don't know what they said to each other, what happened between them, but they never, Mr. Francis never came back in the store.
Why'd you get expelled?
Huh?
Why did you get expelled?
I got in an argument with one of the teachers, and I called her a bitch.
I assume this was an argument over some doctrine of the church.
No, it wasn't a doctrine of the church. It was a verse in the Bible, and I don't even remember what verse it was.
How old were you?
I'd say 7 or 8.
The sad part of that story is that that was something that he looked forward to for the entire year, because they went to Lynchburg and got to swim in the Miller Park swimming pool. He didn't get to go to the picnic. So I think he might have been a little sorry.
Oh, I was tore up with that. I loved that Bible school. We played ball. We had a good time.
And that was the Presbyterian church?
Yeah. And, you know, later on, Mr. Francis would drive down to the store with his wife. And the wife would come in and buy groceries. He'd stay in his car. Or he'd come down there and pick me up to go with him somewhere. He was a big baseball fan. He was at all of our baseball games. He also came to school one day a week and had a religious service for the whole school. And another day a week, he'd come down and teach a harmonica band. And another day of the week, he'd come down and teach choir.
What was the name again?
A.T. Francis.
Yeah, because Jen talked about having that religious class once a week,
Yeah.
which is something we're just
He was
sort of alien to us today.
He and his wife and a woman named Peggy Gibson, who was a little bit retarded, and another woman named Lydia Sanford, who was a school teacher, not at Fleetwood, but up on the mountain. And they lived in the house together. And all of them participated in teaching Sunday school and things like that.
David, talk a little bit about your mother's and father's personalities, what they were like and how they were alike and how they were different.
My mother called my father Mr. Mahone. And both of them called each other sweetheart a lot. I don't ever remember hearing either one of them say Robert or Ida. I mean, to each other.
Now, she would address him as Mr. Mahone. How would, if he was calling her, would you just say sweetheart, or did he have some formality?
No, he'd call her sweetheart.
And that's the only way. That's how you generally addressed her.
They were very close. He died when I was 14 years old. The last 2 or 3 years, he was quite sick.
What do you recall about his death and the circumstances?
The room right behind the store, right, which had the fireplace in it, moved the bed in there, and that's where he slept. That's where we went to talk to him. He would get better and be able to function, get up, keep his stove. When I was a baby, my mother's and father's room was right over top of the store. And
Whose room was?
huh?
Your mother's and father's was over top of the store?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so was Ida's and Mary's room. Up at the front, there's another room up there. But and as a baby, I slept in their bedroom, and I slept in there till I was 7, 8 years old, I guess, in that baby bed. And every night he'd carry the cash box up, put it under the bed, and his .38 pistol. That .38 pistol was always under the counter, on top of the cash box, and it's always under the bed when you were asleep.
Who's got that pistol now?
Tom.
Exhibit A.
But his pistol originally went to Robert. He gave it to me,